Nice. Okay. Good evening, everybody. It is 5:31, and I'm going to call to order the Wednesday, October 13th, 2021 Public Safety Events and Quality of Life Committee meeting up here in the dais with Bill Scott and Don Bracelin. And I'm the chair, Mike Stefano. That was our call to order. Item number 2 on the agenda is our comments, suggestions, petitions by residents and attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. I see none. So we'll move on to item number 3, which is our fire department report. See, Chief's here. Thank you.
Good evening. Steve Pelna, Fire Chief. So I kind of had a chance to think about things a little bit here, as far as I think at least I do a bad job at communicating what it is we do sometimes. I think, you see our stats and we go over the numbers, that sort of thing, but Executive Director Kim Holman had a nice heartfelt speech last month about the rescues. And just to kind of open the eyes of everybody. So I was in this room before that meeting, planning on speaking, but unfortunately we got called to a house fire in East Bradford. And when I arrived, the homeowner was desperately trying to evacuate his family and the family pets. He was burnt, his face, his neck, his hands, a lot of soot around his mouth and nose. And I had to physically take him to Good Fellowship for treatment because he was truly having that worst day of his life, which I think all the public servants in here, that's what we do. And unfortunately, it becomes common to us because we do it so much. But I think it's just a reminder that I think we all need to do a better job to get that point across, to remind everybody what it truly is that we do. But going back on the report here, so over the course of 20 hours on September 1st and 2nd during Hurricane Ida, we responded to 40 storm-related incidents, both in our initial area and neighboring agencies. 23 of those were water rescues. The most significant was the rescue for 2 state troopers who found themselves in incredible moving water from the Brandywine. But the trooper found himself on top of the car on basically about a 4x4 area of the roof that soon was completely underwater. But we our teams were able to successfully rescue him along with the other trooper. But while doing so, it wasn't as easy as it sounds. Flood waters have a tremendous amount of everything from hazardous materials to debris, trampolines, parts of houses, that sort of thing. So unfortunately, our equipment's not designed to just cut through everything. So while doing so, our one boat crew did have the prop lodged with some debris, and they lost power. And as the fire chief, I watched this before me, and the crew was going across the horizon upriver when they lost power, and I never saw a boat move so fast. And to a point where the rescuers were going to need to be rescued. So it's pretty extreme. We don't think of it kind of here in our great little town, but it was a very significant incident. Luckily, they were able to find themselves holding onto a tree to get enough time to clear the prop on the motor and get power again. But all of the guys definitely were kissing the ground when they came back to dry land. But it's amazing, the position I'm in to get to see the team, what we do. So definitely wanted to get that out there. And then, of course, neighboring Downingtown, we assisted them with the unfortunate fatality of a drowning where we had to utilize our Argo to be able to retrieve the body victim, unfortunately. And then on October 2nd, we got to assist the police department and EMS on the activities following homecoming throughout the borough. So we're very much in more of we got to kind of switch roles, and we were on an auxiliary or just helping out. Or no, luckily, significant incidents from our end, but we additional role. And then today we had our ISO audit finally in person. It's been a couple-month process. Director Gore, he helped me through the process as well with the auditor. There's a portion on our inspections and that sort of thing. So probably in the first quarter of next year, we'll see the results of that. I'll certainly share. Very long-winded there.
No, that's great. I really appreciate the stories that those things should be told more. I appreciate that. Do you guys have anything for the fire chief?
Just a comment. I was out in that storm because we had a meeting here. Why it wasn't canceled, I don't know. It normally takes me 5 minutes to get there. It took me 20.
Yeah.
Flooding, I was like, wow. But the next day, I just started, day after that, I started driving around, and you could see where the water levels were. And especially down by the Brandywine, the picnic park, it was Armageddon down there.
Yeah.
And how it pushed whole structures 300 yards past the bridge, and you had several structures smashed up against the bridge, and the brownness of the water was midway up the fence on the bridge.
Yeah.
And my jaw just dropped. So if you guys were out in that, boy, I salute you.
Yeah,
I really do.
It was significant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott, anything?
Thanks.
Anybody have anything else for the fire chief? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we're moving on to item number 4, which is our police department report. Chief Moorhead.
Good evening, James Moorhead, Chief of Police. Month of September, the police department responded to 3,161 calls for service, of which 2,348 of those were in the borough. That's in line with this time of year, university being back in session. With that being said, the university students have been responsive to our extra efforts in borough with College Patrol. They've actually been very responsive to our comments and suggestions on how to make their lives easier, and things have been going pretty well. As far as crime goes, we are back to pre-pandemic numbers. So crime statistics overall are back where they were in 2019. Are seeing a slight spike in assaults and thefts, but growing concern is that of DUI. We see a constant rise in driving under the influence arrests. Last September, we saw 3 borough in the month of September. This year, in September, we had 13. Part of that is rideshare issues that are still trying to be worked out. Officers obviously are out there enforcing this with 13 DUIs just in a single month. So we just want to remind the public to be aware and find a ride when able, and certainly ride shares. I have other reports coming up, so I won't take much time. Any questions that you have?
What kind of issues specifically with the ride shares are we having? Is there anything impeding ride shares coming into the borough, or do we need more spots for them, or any?
Yeah, it's what's going on everywhere right now. It's the lack of people willing to be rideshare drivers.
Oh, it's just a lack of having them. I got it.
Yeah, it's a shortage, and like every other industry, there's employee shortages, and this one's no exception.
All right, I'll apply. I'll see if I can still work on the weekends. Gentlemen, you have anything? Good. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Unless anybody else has anything for the. Okay. Moving on to item number 5. It's our Good Fellowship report. Chief Brogan.
Good evening, Chaz Bergen, Chief of Good Fellowship Ambulance. I feel like I say it every month, but September was our busiest month ever in our 70-year history. So we did have the Hurricane Ida, which was about 29 calls for us. Even taking that out, it's still our busiest month ever. So that kind of speaks to how taxed the healthcare system is nationwide. but really here in Southeast Pennsylvania for sure. Our hospitals are very busy. Obviously, it starts on the EMS side. So as far as the flood, we're still trying to recover from our station in East Bradford that was flooded. We were told by our insurance company, lesser deductibles, thankfully. So the building's getting renovated. Homecoming was actually great for us this year. The police did an excellent job. We only had 5 or 6 related calls, which is tremendous compared to what it is. So thank you to the police department. As far as the report, 636 calls total, 178 of which Chester Borough, Utah, West Goshen is there. And I'll just mention notably the calls on Westchester University's campus with the students back in. 1 in 5 calls was on the campus in the borough this year. Other than that, if you have any questions for me.
Gentlemen, anything? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, looking on to item number 6, review our mutual aid emergency management response agreements. I saw John Brill there, our emergency management coordinator, of the borough.
Good evening, John Brill, Emergency Management Coordinator. The business that we have for emergency management for the council is after we went through the process of updating our emergency operations plan, we scheduled a meeting with all of the department heads for the borough to go over how we interact with them so they had kind of understood we had an incident, how that would work. And part of that was going through some of the documents that we had. We found out that there were a number of agreements that had been created more than 15 years ago between the borough and West Goshen, the borough and East Bradford, and the borough and Westchester University. And while we're not asking for any changes in what those mutual aid agreements contain, we just thought it would be a good idea to update them since there have been probably several turnovers in personnel on the Board of Supervisors and certainly Borough Council in 15 years. So we had them drawn up and we're asking them to be approved. And I've already been in contact with the coordinators for West Goshen, East Bradford, and the university to let them know that this was in process so that once it passes, they know it's coming.
And this is something we do every year as like a maintenance thing to upgrade or to at least look at it and approve it? Or?
Well, the plan is an every year thing. These mutual aid agreements, like I say, we haven't done them in 15 years, nor is there really a need to do them every year. But I think we probably need to revisit it more often than 15 years.
So do we have those yet to look at? We have
The
those?
documents are already created
Okay.
and they should be available to council for review.
Okay. So are we approving this tonight or are we pushing this on the full council tonight?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not seeing them. Oh, I see the mutual aid. I see them. I'm sorry. Okay. And are there, you said there aren't any significant changes to any of these? Or
There aren't any real changes
Any
in
change, okay.
substance in the
Okay.
agreements. It's just a change of dates.
just change of dates? Okay. Does that make sense to you two? Do you have any questions about that?
It's just saying that, we understand, and this goes back, the federal government got a mutual aid between all the states. The state did one with all the counties. The county did one with all the municipalities. We agreed to that back in 2004. So this is just a follow-up to that so that we have specific agreements with those agencies that directly surround the borough. My role is to, when there is a major incident in the borough of Westchester, emergency management coordinator for the borough, yes. Since 2000. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott.
So are we in 3-0 in favor of agreeing on these updates? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Unless there's any other questions on that? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. So moving on to item number 7, which is discuss open air marketplace considerations for future years, including potential permanent infrastructure. Is anybody specifically going to talk about this? Mayor Norley? You're gonna say, okay.
Hi, how's it going? Good evening. Just wanted to bring that topic up. we're not always going to be in an emergency situation here. We're not always going to be in COVID. And I think that there's been some public demand to at least flush out the conversation as to how we move forward from the open air marketplace standpoint. Public safety, police department obviously has a role in that, as well as, ultimately some consultants, probably engineering studies, depending on how that conversation develops. But, do we want to explore a permanent close of the street? Do we want to explore a permanent infrastructure that would be able to go up and go down on demand? What are the pros and cons? Or do we want to just go back to, pre-2020? It's just open all the time. We'll continue to develop that conversation on our side. We've been busy on a couple items, so I'd like to punt this primarily to public safety in November. There's a memo in process, but want to just at least have the conversation, see if it's something that council wants to further develop and work on, and have any input as to some things that we look at.
Do you think this is something that if council was looking at doing it something permanently, have like an ad hoc committee or something, really dive into this and look at it? Or you think a department could just handle it? Or I don't know.
Hard to say.
It seems like if it's going to be permanent, it's going to be quite an undertaking. That's what
it would be quite an undertaking. Yeah. It would take years really to develop, yeah. I think, and some dedicated time and resources towards that. So that being said, an ad hoc committee probably would probably be a decision to look at that. Maybe it's an informal committee as arranged by the mayor's office, just like I did for the diversity committee. That would make sense. Or it could be, you could appoint one too, like the CCC, for example, or the pension committee. But do you want to have that conversation? Should we keep pushing that forward and come to some consensus? Because I know, when I went door to door for a long time, it was very, very popular. And I think we owe it to our residents probably to flush that conversation out.
Yeah, I think anecdotally, I've heard nothing but positive things. I've heard maybe one or two people that complain about some traffic issues, but other than that, it's been very popular. And you do it once, it's a thing. You do it twice, now it becomes something like a habit that we're going to go forward. I think people are going to expect it, even if it's just in the summer months. So I think that conversation needs to keep coming back up. I do think we should maybe punt it to next week or next month rather. But also, council's going to look a little different in a couple months. So we might have to revisit it with a new council and make sure everybody's still on board with it. You guys have any thoughts on that at this point, or just something we could discuss in future meetings?
Who knows? I mean, that's the question, and if so, in what capacity? Honestly, a permanent shutdown would be a lot cheaper, and it has all sorts of implications like parking revenue and everything else. Business deliveries, you name it. Probably a lot less expensive than some sort of permanent infrastructure like attic bollards that go up and down in some very, very old streets with some very, very infrastructure. Well, basically punting right now till next public safety and quality of life committee meeting. We'll have a memo that we'll put together, just at least from the public safety standpoint. Try to ripen it a little bit just to steer the conversation. But it'd be good to get input from particular some other folks. Just kind of start to get the conversation rolling. It would probably look like hiring a consultant at some point to really develop the plan and phase it out, and then funding sources and that sorts of things. Yeah, we'll put something in writing. course not. Never. Does council have a? Certainly not that. Certainly not that. Been more confusing. Want to call it something else?
I think it makes sense, especially if it's going to be permanent, to call it that. And I think we're already starting to like discuss it now and actually get into questions that I think we could dive into once we have something in front of us to look at going forward. But it sounds like I know that I'm in favor of pushing this discussion and starting to get the ball rolling. So doing it now or next summer. And I don't know what's going on with PennDOT and switching out the highway. I know that seems like it's progressing well from the last I heard. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll keep on writing it next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which is discussing homecoming. Chief Moorhead's going to come back up.
Yes, good evening. Homecoming 2021 is a success. This comes with some issues. I'd like to thank our partners in this, obviously the university, Pennsylvania State Police, the Chester County Sheriff's, surrounding departments, Westchester Fire Department, Good Fellowship Ambulance, the Emergency Management Coordinator, who spent a great deal of time in here in the Emergency Operations Center on that Saturday. The police department provided 15 extra personnel to homecoming day. We had personnel obviously working the street that day. We added communication staff. So Chief Communication Officer Dave March did a fantastic job setting up the EOC. Myself and other staff members were in throughout the day. The state police provided 6 horses. So we had the mounted patrol down in the southeast. We had troopers from different regions come in, totaling 10 troopers dedicated to borough. Problems this year were less in one respect, and then we saw an issue on the flip side of that coin. The difference this year was, I'll use the analogy, is that you go out and you weed your garden, that biggest weed always stares you right down. So you go for the biggest weed first. That was the police department strategy this year. We hit the house parties right away. That is a constant denominator of problems evolve from, is the house parties. And we had realistic discussions with the house owners or the renters. We set the standards right away. We made them take down fencing that was inappropriate. We had them test their noise with their music with us to tell them what was acceptable and what wasn't. We identified certain party goers and said, if that person stays here, it's going to be a problem. And they quickly ejected that person. So it was a coordinated effort from the students and the police department, and I got to say, they responded well. Our officers dealt with every issue professionally from the get-go, and I think a lot of that is what curbed some of the issues early on. Just to give you an example, in 2019, when we were at the height of homecoming issues, in a single 6 to 8 hour event, we had 89 arrests. In 2021, we had 30. It was drastically reduced. Our officers were diligent. They were obviously out there enforcing crime, but the students were much more behaved. I think the word got out on how they're supposed to conduct themselves in public. Did not go without issue. There was one house party late in the evening, right up here across from the American Legion post on Gay Street, that partygoers poured uptown. Already busy bars and businesses, so it created a couple disturbances and fights, and then throughout the evening, the officers were responding to disturbances. Didn't increase the amount of arrests going on. They were moved on without incident. But in the morning, the problem that we had was there was a disarray of uptown. There was trash. And in the past, what we were missing this year compared to what we were missing or what we had years past is we had much larger effort from the borough to respond up there and clean up that trash. We had the bar owners and business owners take responsibility for their front. And, you know, to be quite honest, we didn't see a lot of that this year. So we were left with a trash issue. Again, take that and put that aside. I think this year's homecoming was successful. We had overwhelming positive response from the public. Residents in the Southeast universities seemed to have their issues. And like Brogan said earlier, the responses to alcohol-related incidents were way down. Our alcohol overdoses and 2 years ago, we had officers and paramedics putting tourniquets on college kids. I mean, that's crazy, but that's the behavior that was out there back then. This year was much more mild. I think we all saw it, but we are taking a very in-depth look. We're not getting comfortable with it. We're trying to make sure that what we did this year is going to work the following year, so we're constantly at work. Thirty individual college students, yes. 11 of them were public drunk, public intoxication. There were 2 DUIs, 3 underage drinking, 1 criminal mischief, 1 littering, 1 public indecency, 6 noise complaints, 3 disorderly conducts, and 6 open container of alcohol. Six noise complaints. So parties that were cited, level. Correct.
Yeah, I took a run that day and went down to my area, went for a run, and I saw it, and it was pretty tame comparatively to past years. There were definitely people outside, but seemed like they were being respectful. So I really appreciate the communication aspect of that and talking to those parties and saying, hey, this is what we expect and this is what it's acceptable. I think that goes a long way. So I really appreciate that. And I haven't heard anything negative from any of my residents saying, hey, this wasn't done. It sounded like it was a positive experience overall. So thank you. Mr. Braceland, anything?
Just a quick anecdote. I had a resident told me that it was complete pandemonium. Their students were destroying things. Everyone was drunk, running around wild. And I said, were you there? No. That ended that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for the detail on that, too.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item number 9, which is discuss professional services proposal for Organizational Research and Development LLC for the Police Department.
Thank you. The police department is looking to get into a contractual agreement with a company called Organizational Research and Development. What they do is an employee engagement program. We had them fill out a service contract for the borough. Our solicitor took a look at that and turned an email to me that she was in acceptance with the agreement as far as its wording goes, so everything is squared away on the solicitor end. Police department is looking to improve organizational development among its employees. We're looking to hire this company to come in, and they're going to spend the next 3 months with us at the cost of $6,900. That's breaking down to about $156 per employee, if you put it that way. And the company's coming in because I'm the first person to look in the mirror, take a look at where I need to improve, where I need to make changes, and I think this company brings that, offers that to the table. They're going to develop and administer an employee engagement survey, and from that, they're going to start working with our communication within and around the police department, working with the administration, going to be working with the frontline supervisors, and then they're going to be working with the officers themselves, offering coaching sessions, providing all kinds of communication and workshop training, teaching our supervisors how to be better supervisors, teaching our bosses how to be better bosses, how to make our officers better communicators. And I think this is money well spent doing it. We have this money set aside in our training budget this year, so there's no added cost. It's factored into training money for 2021. Again, we're going to get about 3 months of services from this company, and decision something we want to continue to pursue in years to come. But it runs the gamut. It's from email organization and communication to scheduling, communicating up and down from your meetings. And I just think if you're standing still, you're doing something wrong. So this is something that I think is going to benefit the police department. I've already had a small discussion with Mr. Metrick and maybe looking more global next year. This is successful.
Is this something that will be, the informational will be relayed to council as you know, the feedback that they're getting, the survey results, will you kind of report that back and say, this group is doing this and this is the results we're seeing? We'll get something back from you?
Full transparency. I think if there's something wrong, council should know about it. I just think we're always going to find areas that we can improve. Police departments are big on finding cop teachers, teach them how to handcuff properly or to testify in court properly. This is a business-minded solution. Look forward to this company coming in, taking a look at a police department.
Gentlemen, any issues with this, or?
No offense to either of them, but not even close to what this company offers. This company specializes in providing organizational solution. That's their whole concept. It's exactly $6,900. The entire police department for the next 3 months of services. So it's all laid out in the proposal attachment that's in your
Yeah, and especially since it's, budgeted for and allotted for in the training, that always works. Okay, so we're 3 on this. Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Going on to item number 10, Good Fellowship is back. Support request of House Bill 1293, which is direct pay to EMS agencies. Kim, are you going to, there you are, right there.
I'm quick. Good evening, gentlemen. Kim Holman, Executive Fellowship AML. Just to kind of recap this, Cato, the Chester County Association of Township Officials, brought this to your guys' attention in the form of a letter requesting support from all the municipalities for House Bill 1293. I thought it would be an opportune moment to kind of walk through what House Bill 1293 is and then what it means to EMS in particular. This is a bill that was brought forth by Representative Kurt Mazer. It is known as the direct pay bill. It actually was brought before probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I think we've discussed it in council, and it was actually brought up by Representative back then. It went through the Veterans Preparedness Committee up in Harrisburg, and that was a point of contention with the insurance industry. So this is a revamp of that bill, but actually it is much better worded for EMS. And Representative Mazer brought it forth and put it through the insurance committee. So I think we'll have a lot more traction there now because they can't have that anymore. So anyway, it's known as the direct pay bill. It basically requests the insurers pay the provider of the service instead of the insured. So currently on commercial insurance plans, if you're a non-participating company, which that means basically you will ask instead of the contract, they pay the patient instead of paying the ambulance company. So what that does is prolongs the collection process, and it also usually decreases the percentage of what the ambulance actually keeps on the bill. Because a lot of times it goes past 90 days or it even goes into collections, and then there's a greater percentage kept by that agency for the collection. It is currently, as I said, in the insurance committee. It is introduced to them in April, back in session, and this will be a big push. This bill basically is like the Super Bowl. I don't say that lightly. I don't come before you a lot with House bills. This is one of those ones that will really make a statement and really make a difference for us. And it's actually being pushed across Pennsylvania. So not only is Cato doing this, but PSATs, the Pennsylvania Association, pushing this as well. And I've included a copy of the House bill inside the packet tonight, as well as a form letter that you can use. Not only are we requesting support of the council to write a letter to the representatives, but also to Tina Pickett, as the representative, the chair of the insurance committee. Questions on the bill?
Gentlemen?
I seem to remember, 2 to 3 years ago, you gave a presentation over the mothership. And I remember I was very impressed with that. I didn't realize all behind the scenes stuff, and what the situation of your, I hate to use the word industry, but service is. So I like this idea. It's good.
Me too.
Yeah.
We all do. All the EMS people do. But also, I think the township officials are really big at this, especially Chester County group, and like I said, even PSATs, because it may eliminate some of the burden for having to share with each other. We advocate, quite honestly, very hard for EMS to be self-sufficient and for insurance reimbursement to really be sole source funding. That's not possible. Medicare, Medicaid, God love the government, makes that kind of difficult, and the commercial insurance really holds the rest of the bag. And so that shortfall actually requires us to come to the townships and say, we help. So it's kind of going to be a jointed effort here. Township officials are standing there with us. We might have a chance to actually push this bill through this.
I mean, I'm 100% in favor of supporting this and having council draft something.
So I've talked to Representative Hare and also already Senator Committa, just because if it goes to the Senate side to try and get preemptive. So most of the representatives I've talked to are really on board. I understand. But most of them are local to us, but it's because we have a well-established relationship with them, that they kind of are already educated, supportive. I actually, I was joking, it impairs my ability to speak. So I'm like kind of, I know I actually fractured my humerus in a bike accident. Sure, yes, it actually was, sir. It was homecoming. I'm surprised Chief Moorhead didn't bring that up.
Yeah, we're definitely 3-0. It sounds like to write a letter, and we'll bring that to council next
Awesome.
week.
Thank
and
you so much. We
I
appreciate it.
foresee it going well. So thank you very much. All right. On to item number 11. Discuss amendment to the agreement between what is it? PAD. What the heck is that? PADWC. Is that the? I don't know what that is. PADWC LLC and the Westchester Borough to allow extension of premises from the PA Liquor Control Board for sidewalk seating at Sedona Tap House, Westchester.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Ken Butera, I represent PADWC. As you recall, about 2 years ago, we were in front of the Borough Council and other meetings for an intermunicipal transfer for a liquor license to come into the borough. That is now Sedona. It's PADWC is the corporate name. Sedona is the trade name. And we, at that time, went through a lot of negotiations and entered into an agreement. That agreement find the service to an area that was specified on the plans. That was then incorporated into the agreement. I'm going to hand. Page is the area that shows the restaurant. The sort of the checkered pattern is the indoor part of the restaurant, and then just to the right of that west is the outdoor dining as it currently sits. But as with so many other things, COVID has changed. I'm sorry, yeah, COVID has changed how things, and more people are demanding to sit outside. The good news here is that when this building was built, the setback is a little bit bigger than in most of the sidewalk areas. And so what my clients are proposing is on the next page, which is 8 tables to sit contiguous to the restaurant, and leaving about 4 feet 6 inches for walkway. It would be the walking area would remain street, and the tables would be walking between. Walk past the restaurant. That's the proposal. So in order to do this, a couple things are going to have to happen. One is there's 2 sections of the agreement that will have to be amended. Section 2B and 2E, and I apologize, I did not bring the agreement. I have 1 copy with me, but and I'm happy to leave it with you, but just for purposes here, what 2B basically says, the agreement says that that PAD agrees to stay, or Sedona agrees to stay within the areas that they demonstrated on the plans. And then section G of 2G just says that they will not go down and apply for a cafe permit from the borough. So those 2, we would need to amend those 2, have those 2 sections amended. I believe that would have to be by the entire board, but we wanted to bring it to you first, and then Sedona are here and answer any logistical questions.
I got a question maybe for Kevin, actually. How is this different than a platform license?
So even if you have the sidewalk, you still require the license, which they did apply for, but it was.
Okay. Gentlemen, your initial thoughts on this? That's what you're holding right there is essentially that's along Gay Street, and those are the 8 tables along Gay Street.
Yes, that's exactly right. They are. 8 more tables, 8 more full tops. I believe then I was wrong on my
Yeah,
letter.
it looks
I
like
said
9.
8,
It looks like
and,
9.
It's 9. I'm not trying to sneak anything by.
Snuck a table in there.
Ask a lawyer to do math. That's what you get. So.
What's that? Oh, the agreement? Yeah, I'll take a look. Yeah. Oh, under Smart Earth agenda. Okay. All right. I mean, it sounds like the only issue is that we would allow this for any other restaurant, but because we have this existing agreement that prohibits it, that's the issue.
If I may, because I've been in front of this council a few times on the intermunicipal transfers, is that they're really concerned about changes made to licensed premises. And rightly so, understandably so. The council has traditionally been concerned with that. And they just want to, if you do make a change, the consensus has always been, and Tom Estes is the attorney I've dealt with, who serves as special solicitor on this area, is that if there is a change, they just really want the board's consensus to that change, or the council's consensus on that change. So that's what they're asking for, or next week or whenever.
Do you have any issues with this, or?
Obviously after council should approve this, then there's an LCB approval process, and then they would go out after that. Whether it happens this year or not, I mean, we would try.
I would think, Mr. Scott, that's what I was just going to say. It would follow the normal cafe permit, like what every other restaurant, when they're allowed to get the permit, have tables outside, it would follow the same rules as that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the months. Kevin probably could give an exact.
I'm sorry, April 15th to November 1st is the outdoor dining. November 15th. It's a 12-foot wide sidewalk. Some of them are narrower in town, but we require everybody has to have a minimum of 54-inch clear walkway. Tables or sidewalk's 12 foot there.
Right here. Here I go.
It says 12 foot 6 inches, according to this.
That's in the before. You're right, there's a pole. But 54 inches would be about 4 feet 6 inches.
Right.
Kildare's? No, Kildare's? Kildare's is now that, yes. The one next to it, Kildare's? That's what you're asking. I don't know.
That's not directly adjacent. Say that the sidewalk there is probably similar in size. It's probably almost the same width there. Yeah, it's right next door. not as of yet. Because maybe it has to be amended before they submit this is the plan that they submit. Requirements that they comply with in order to issue certificate, insurance, and everything that needs to be submitted along.
We're on both agendas.
Sure. It was on both. It was on both due to miscommunication. So it's going to be discussed now, and we'll probably table it, smart growth agenda. We won't talk about it at the next meeting. This is still the public safety agenda.
I think it came before us because it has to deal with the Liquor Control Board. We're eventually going to make a recommendation or not to approve this.
So whenever you do any extension of premises, whenever you're going to seat people in an area that that you haven't told the LCB where you're going to sit, you need to give them an application for an extension of premises. But that's in this case, I think that's really independent. They're going to have to do that, to be LCB compliant. But here, what we're asking for is an amendment to the agreement so that they can go do that, so they can take that next step. I presume so, unless it was licensed when they built it. I don't know. I don't know when they would have. I don't know. I don't know what Hills did.
I don't have any issue with it. So, Mr. Metric.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stefano. I just want to relay advice from legal counsel. Thursday, October 7, Tom Estes replied that council should set a hearing date to amend this agreement. So when council next meets, perhaps maybe at the workshop or business meeting next week, we can set a hearing date to amend the agreement, and that is our next step.
So we're recommending then next week to set a hearing to approve this, is what we're saying, public hearing. That would be the recommendation, Mr. Scott. So we're not actually going to approve it. We have to approve council to set a date to have a public hearing to approve this. Does that make sense? No, I think because we already had an agreement that prohibited them from having these tables, they're asking us to go in and amend that agreement is what's going on. Okay, then you're in agreement, Mr. Braceland. So then what'll happen next week, full council will set an actual date to approve it at a public hearing. Does that make sense?
So now there's another there's another meeting after this one. Do you want us to stay for that? Or?
If you want to come for that one, it'll be on the work session agenda next Tuesday.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. No, tonight there's a meeting. Isn't there a meeting?
There is a Smart Growth meeting, but we're not going to you don't need to we won't discuss it again. It'll be the same discussion. So.
All right. And then presumably next week, there'll just be a discussion amongst the council.
Yep, to set a date.
Whether or not we should have a hearing or not.
Yep.
And all that.
Exactly.
And then there'll be a hearing date. I presume it'll be a pretty quick hearing.
Yeah, I agree. And it'll most likely take place like a month from next week. It usually takes place before our work or voting sessions.
So in December?
November.
Well, I'm saying, but would the hearing be in December or November? No,
it would be next month.
We're in October. Okay.
Yeah, we're in October. So it'd be November. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. You're running late here. Let's see. We're on item number 12, which is approving last month's minutes. I looked at them. They look great. Mr. Scott, all good? Good. Any other business? Seeing no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.